Well, apparently I didn't consider making an exhausted still with my new cartoon characters because exhausted is my complete mood right now. Well, hello, cartoon fanatics. Welcome back to the final installment of Cartoon Corner covering Infinity Train. Maybe. Most likely. Well, you'll see. There's a lot to go through. I know that this video is super late. Most of the videos I've been working on are super late, but I've been having some big life stuff happening. I'm on my own personal infinity train, if you catch my drift. Oh, why can't my infinity train come with a glowing number and a talking floating bell? But enough rambling. It's time to cover the most recent and unfortunately what looks like the final installment of Infinity Train. Book 4. Lots of stuff going on with Book 4, both in the story itself and behind the scenes. So let's start by getting that major thorn out of everyone's sides. Yes, this book was supposed to be a sort of sweet tease going into a planned Book 5 movie and a Christmas special. And as far as we know, both have been currently canned by the network due to there being no child entry point. I know I'm just as guilty playing the people think cartoons are for kids gag when reviewing Infinity Train, but this show is really not geared towards children, and it's gotten extremely good viewership catering towards an older demographic. But no, it's all about making the tiny kiddos happy, which I understand wanting to have things be family friendly, but you can make adult-oriented work that kids can still enjoy. This argument's been talked to near death, and no matter how many people bring up this point and how much people enjoyed Infinity Train, for now the censorship gods have spoken. It majorly sucks. But that's the way it is. So I'm going to set my frustration over canceling clearly the best content Cartoon Network's had in the past few years, and now spend the rest of this video focusing in on Book 4, what parts are somewhat open-ended due to this decision, and what you can still enjoy about the now final season. And we did manage to fight our way into getting a third and fourth season of Infinity Train in the past. Maybe there's always potential to bring the show back to life yet again. Gotta keep up that hashtag Save Infinity Train because apparently we have to pull it out every single season. Oh, yeah, spoilers from here on out. I'm not going to explicitly cover the plot of each episode, but the overall discussion will include spoilers, so here's your warning. 3, 2, 1, and go. Book 4 mainly revolves around two close friends, Ryan and Minji, as they have a rift that starts in childhood and leads up to adulthood, which eventually brings them onto the Infinity Train. And the way this first episode starts is fantastic. We see how the two grow up, notice hurt and conflict from both sides. When they separate, we see their two individual paths right up until they reunite and the two sides merge together. The Twin Tapes episode is a great way to set up our new characters for this season. And at the end, we discover that this season is a prequel, baby! As the two are given the same number and sent away, we see a young Amelia discuss the decisions and purpose of the train with one. Yes, just one. I'm gonna put a pin in that topic for now, but trust me, we'll come back to it. The majority of this season is following Ryan and Minji's journey to solve the train and head home. Along the way, they meet a floating belle named Kez who gets into a lot of trouble, and often the cars they pass through are ones they have to escape due to Kez's antics. Kez is certainly an interesting character. I'll admit I wasn't completely sold on the idea of a floating belle, but the moment she opened her mouth, all those doubts immediately vanished. She's a snarky mess and reminds me so much of some of my friends. I love Kez. She's definitely one of my fave denizens next to Atticus, and Ryan's definitely my favorite adult human from the show. Don't at me, just look at that School of Rock vibe. Ugh! Anywho, you might be able to tell from my brief gushing about Ryan that his struggles and Minji's struggles are almost polar opposites. Ryan's the wild child that's willing to take risks for the sake of being noticed, when he never was as a kid because he had so many siblings. Minji feels pressured by his very strict plan-oriented parents and is afraid to break out of that mold. They complement each other well, but their own internal issues is also what creates a rift between them. Neither is willing to back down from the way they perceive the world. And as they travel the train, they realize these flaws, and that being together helps make them stronger people. Lots of heavy adult topics are brought up, but not in the same darkness and intensity as the previous books, especially looking back at book 3. When I started the season, I full expected that horror vibe to explode to unforeseen levels, and what I got felt a little lackluster at first watch. I think that might have been disappointment knowing that there was more planned and we might never get to see it. But I'd argue now that book 4 is a bit of a dark horse. It doesn't quite follow the same vibe as the previous seasons, but because it's a prequel, it's setting up a different perspective of how passengers viewed the train. Ryan and Minji are told from the very beginning why they're there and what they need to do. Granted, Kez is a horrible explainer, but they still have an understanding of their purpose on the train. None of the passengers from the previous seasons had that understanding, and it was their confusion and hopelessness that led to many of the experiences in those past seasons. Another good takeaway from this season is that it effectively demonstrates how to have very adult conflicts and situations without having to spew what is considered adult content. There is not a lot of massive violence in Book 4, but the intensity and problems Ryan and Minji are going through are very adult topics. They're struggling with identity, coming to terms with their less than ideal childhood, wanting to please those around them, or achieving their own goals to the point of ignoring the emotions of those around them. And while a lot of these issues are dealt with by both of them trying to get Kez to realize her faults, there's the chilling museum car episode where this limb-absorbing entity works the passengers down to their negative emotions, and then when that's all they can feel, it consumes them to be a part of its body. Ugh, the last episode was so freaky, as Minji was stuck at the mercy of this creature while Ryan's number reached 0 and he was given his exit at the end of this episode. However, Ryan realizes he can't bail on Minji, even if Minji has done it to him, so he denies his exit to rescue his friend. The two arrived on the train together, and they both decide to only leave if they can do it together. Yeah, that was probably the most terrifying part of this whole season. I guess if I wanted to continue the takeaway joke I've been doing for all of these, I should go ahead and say, Infinity Train! Find your way out of a horrible nightmare land only to realize your best friend is going to be consumed by this monstrous living demonic entity. I didn't write this one into the script. It's very poor because I was trying to move away from that gag. I felt like I needed to do it one more time, just in case we don't get anything else. Alright, it's time to take that pin out and go through the tidbits of lore sprinkled throughout this season. And while this season does seem to be disconnected from the others at surface level, there is a lot happening behind the scenes. Ryan and Minji's story allows us to see how the train used to function before Amelia took it over, and present theories about how Amelia's decision altered the train from its original design. In the first episode, we saw Amelia questioning why Ryan and Minji have the same number to 1, the conductor. And yes, our beloved 1-1 certainly does not appear the same in this scene, having only 1 white dot in the middle of his sphere instead of the 2 that reflect his optimistic and pessimistic personalities. We also see a brief moment of the stewardess's intended purpose, acting as a communication vessel for the conductor to speak to all passengers throughout the train. Another key thing to observe is the appearance of Janeway Cat. Yes, Janeway Cat is back! But she's not the same cat that we've seen in the previous seasons. Here she appears more casual and playful. She helps passengers, but in a very cat like way. She definitely doesn't seem afraid or wary of anything. In fact, most of the denizens we encounter don't seem too terrified or concerned. When you think back on previous seasons, the only thing denizens were truly afraid of were gnomes. Well, they were these horrific creatures that denizens can turn into and suck the soul and physical being of a passenger. But there is no hint or mention of these creatures in any of Book 4. We are starting to get clues of what might have happened during the period between this season and the moment Tulip takes down Amelia as the conductor. All indicators show that Amelia and One were a bit of a master and apprentice. For some reason, One took on Amelia to show her how the train functions. And clearly we see that Amelia had some disagreements with the way that those things were run. Near the end of season 4, we get a second encounter with the stewardess. This time it has been taken over by Amelia. She seems unsure of how to handle the machine, but instructs the passengers that they are on their own, and then the stewardess self-destructs. Luckily for Ryan and Minji, they figure out their exit pretty quickly. But for the other passengers and the denizens on board, this creates a huge tonal shift for the train. Right now, I theorize that this event probably caused One to split into the 1-1 that we know and love, as well as creating the origin of the noms, I still don't know how to pronounce that. It created the origin of those nightmare creatures, since we know from Book 1 that Amelia was able to turn denizens into gnomes, as we saw her do to Atticus, and it's her reign that makes the train into a horror show for the denizens. It's life or death for all creatures on board, and now passengers aren't given any direction as to what the train is, or how they got there, or how they can leave. No direction, and the threat of creatures that can Thanos snap you eventually leads to the creation of the apex and to the deaths of many denizens and passengers alike. Whew, so after finally getting through my mess of thoughts, what is the final opinion on Book 4? Personally, I didn't like it as much as the previous seasons, but I enjoyed a lot of scenes and secrets hidden throughout the season. It's a bummer that right now Infinity Train is not continuing, but we are a pretty stubborn fandom. I mean, we've already got 4 seasons after they wanted to cancel it after season 1, so, hashtag Save Infinity Train is still going strong. At least it is at the moment I'm recording this video, so anyway, if you are entertained by me talking about the recent final installment of Infinity Train, it still doesn't feel right saying that, while I'm going through a real-life Infinity Train, put a thumbs up and hit that like button and the bell and subscribe and whatever else I'm supposed to tell you to hit for more of this insanity. Do not hit Kez, though. She will take it personally. I am dying to put up an Amphibia review, but that's a whole mess in of itself. So once True Colors actually airs, and it better air soon because I'm going to lose my mind about it, there will certainly be a video here. As of right now, I've got some major stuff in the works for both cartoons and puppetry stuff on the channel, so if any of that interests you, make sure to stick around, and hopefully I will see you guys next time. Stay safe, good luck on your own personal Infinity Train. May it be better than mine, preferably with a talking bell.